Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. I've had a lot of messages and a lot of requests, people asking about my budget rock and roll bed. So I thought, whilst the van's grounded with injector problems, I'll just show you how I made it. So to start with, I thought I'd give you a real quick run through of what the bed actually is. Now, it's a 4 foot wide double bed with a little bit of storage at the back that's removable. With that box out, you can put long items underneath. Skis, snowboards, paddle boards, whatever it is you want to put under there will fit. Now, if you come around the side, you can see this bed's really easy. All you have to do is put it back up, is that, and you're good. You can secure it in with these if you really want, but you don't have to. And then it becomes a double bench either side. You've got a bench at the back, bench at the front. You can sit here, do a little bit of cooking, a little bit of editing, a little bit of sitting, whatever it is you want to do. And then when it's bedtime, really simple, the reverse of what we've just done. That comes down and you're ready to go. I do have a mattress specifically for this. I'll link below. It was about 80 quid, I think. The link for that will be below. But let's get on with the build. Now, I know there'll be people out there that say I should have had a bed on the side that pulls out. It would give me more space and I could have had a bigger kitchen area. But for me, the most important thing is a big bed and a good night's sleep. The kitchen can be compromised, which is exactly why I went for this design in the end. Feel free to pause the video here or take a picture of the screen, but this is a list of things you're going to need for the build. So to start with, you're going to want to cut the sheet of ply into 5 different sections. Bear in mind these sections are relevant to the size of bed that I wanted. So if the size of the bed that you want is different, you're going to have to go by different measurements, but this is the size of bed that fits in a Caddy Maxim. Again, if you're going by these measurements, it's probably a good idea to either screenshot this or take a picture of it on your phone. If you haven't got a plunge saw, the easiest way to do this is to get some sort of straight edge, either a level or a bit of CLS, clamp it onto the ply, and then you can get a nice straight line every time. Now we're moving on to fitting the continuous hinges to get the pivotal movement on the main bed structure. Now, I've never fitted these before and I'm an idiot, so if I can do it, anyone can. I just used 25mm PZ1 screws. It's pretty self-explanatory how to use these, and you can just figure which way up they go quite easily. This is how it should look once the hinges are fitted. That bit there's for storage, should fold up nicely. The next panel is the one that gets bolted down, and then the whole bed structure should move quite freely, like that. So, full disclaimer, at this point, I should probably say I got this idea from another guy's YouTube channel, which is why I built the frame this way originally. But what that meant was that these bits here were permanently fixed in place, which wouldn't be an issue in a bigger van, but I'm tight on space in here anyway, and they were just going to get in the way when I got in and out of the van, so I needed to come up with a way to get them gone. The next step is to get the frame built for the bed. These measurements will work for the original design and the adapted moving design too. I've colour coordinated it too, so you can see which bit of wood sits where and exactly how they connect together. So here's the measurements you need for the frame, and here's the amount of cuts and the length of the cuts you need for the CLS. Once that's built, it should look something like this. So I used Gorilla Glue and 180mm PZ2 screws to hold the frame together. It might be a bit overkill, but that's the route I went down. Also, these little corner clamps are quite handy if you've got one of those. I built it on a workbench upright with a helper, but if you don't have a helper or a workbench, you could just build it on the floor just as easily. Once again, another little dry run just to make sure everything's all good before I look at putting the legs on and fitting it in the van. Now it's time to get the legs fitted. It's important to note the length of the leg I've marked as 235mm, but it's entirely up to you. If I was to rebuild this bed, I'd probably make them around 180 to 200mm, just because the bed sits a little bit too high for my liking. Once again, if you're going for the original frame that doesn't move, this is the leg setup you need. And if you're going for the adapted frame that I ended up going for, that retreats out of the way to save space, then this is the leg setup you'll need for that. The way I bolted the legs on was just a pilot hole right through, glue, and then 180mm screws down again. Then I fitted 2 corner brackets to each leg. You probably don't need them, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. For those of you wanting to build the adapted frame or the modified frame, what you're going to need to do is make a cut to the frame around 353mm from the front. This might vary depending on how accurate your previous cuts have been. The easiest way to do it is to just cut it flush with the cross beam that goes across. So you're effectively just cutting the 2 front bits of the frame off. Now I apologise because I forgot to take a photo or record this part during the build. But with those 2 bits you've cut off, you want to stick them to the underside of the front panel, or panel number 5 as we called it in the diagram earlier, with some 50mm screws. Make sure you put them pretty much flush with the edge though, so that they sit on the outside of the frame. I opted to cut off 20mm and put some 20mm wheels on there as well. You don't have to do that, but I just did it for ease to make everything a little bit smoother. The next thing I did was cut some slits in the ply. It retains the strength this way as long as you don't cut them too big, and it saves quite a bit of weight. The way to do this is to hole saw some 30mm holes at the end, and then just use a straight line and a circ saw to take the middle out. I then opted to route the edges and round them off so they were smooth. If you haven't got a router, just use some sandpaper. I just used a router because I had one. Sandpaper will be absolutely fine. I painted everything black just to make it look a bit more stealthy, but you don't have to do that. Once I'd got the frame in the van and where it needed to be, I just bolted it down with these corner brackets, one of them on every leg. This will probably upset a few people who say it's not crash tested and people can't sit on there while you travel, but there's only room for 2 in this camper anyway, so no one needs to be sat back there when I'm driving. I also cut out these little corner bits just so they fitted in this van properly. Every van will be different though, so just adapt it to whatever van you've got. Once you're happy that everything's aligned and works fine, you can bolt panel number 4 to the securing points on the frame. Then the final thing you're going to want to do is just put a set of latches on the front to lock it in place. So the mattress fits up snug. It's about 1 inch longer, but it fits absolutely fine. So all going well, you should end up with something that looks like this. Has a liftable front for storage, moves freely, and also has a back bit that lifts up for more storage. If I made any mistakes in this video, don't hesitate to let me know. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask. And thanks for watching.